Hello, everyone, and welcome to From Burnout to Breakthrough, the four-pillar approach to purpose, power, passion, and play. I'm just wondering, while we're waiting for people to join the webinar, how many of you have had thoughts like this? Maybe something like, it's up to me to fix the people I care about or serve. Or, if the clients or customers or people I care for are unhappy, then I'm not doing my job and I'm a failure. Or maybe, what I do isn't enough. No matter how much I give, it isn't enough. It'll never be enough. Or something like, I need the approval of my client, customer, or person to feel joyful about myself and my work and my life. Does any of that sound familiar to you? I just wanted to say welcome as people are joining the webinar. It's so exciting to see people from all over the globe. Most of our attendees seem to be from the United States, but I see two from England, and I see one from Australia and one from Israel. So we have a global representation here, and that's exciting. Welcome. I'm Kristen Van Tilburg. I'm the creator of the Burnout Fix program. I'm the founder of the Love Mindset Mastery community. I call myself a master mindset strategist because it is my life's work to teach people about the power of thought and how to create a mindset that gives you a life that you can really love. For 30 years, I've been implementing innovative mindset strategies for people that are seeking to actualize their full potential. And my website is burnoutfix.com. Our purpose today is to create a burnout fix for you with the 4 pillars breakthrough process. If you're here, I'm thinking you might already feel like you're burned out, but if you're not sure, you're high risk for burnout if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner, the pastor of a church, a social worker or social service provider, some kind of caregiver, or maybe a healthcare professional like a nurse practitioner, doctor, healer of all kinds and varieties, or therapist of some sort. You're in the right place if you're feeling exhausted, if you have insomnia, if you're troubled by high blood pressure, if you feel a lot of stress in your life, if you feel frustrated and angry, if you're constantly busy but not very productive, if you've moved into some sort of apathy, if you're cynical or irritable, if you're withdrawn, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're overcommitted and constantly running from one appointment to the next, or if you're one of those people that can barely drag yourself out of bed due to exhaustion. Or maybe you're lost or confused or ready to run and just desperate to feel better. If you're experiencing any of those feelings and many more, you're not alone. Burnout is such a common problem in America and all over the world. Millions of Americans are suffering from burnout. It's a major cause of absenteeism at work, and it's a major underlying cause of illness and many chronic diseases. Burnout is a disease of our modern civilization. There are just so many contributing factors that come together to create the experience of burnout. So no two people are alike in terms of the burnout formula that's brought them down. Each person's suffering has their own unique set of contributing factors. So we're going to look at some of those. And when you hear it all at one time, it really is just a wonder that we're all not totally burned out. I thought we'd start by looking at burnout factors at work. Long, exhausting commutes, crowded highways and streets, massive road rage, all the financial pressure of owning a car, like insurance, maintenance, car repairs, and car payments. And other factors, the fact that businesses normalized burnout. expecting 60 to 80-hour work weeks out of their salaried employees. And at the same time, not acknowledging that burnout is a problem, just using that kind of hour as an expectation for their management staff. Few businesses offer stress reduction training. It's just your problem if you're stressed out. But it's funny because burnout goes all the way from the executives in the C-suite down to the people that are at the very lowest end of the pay grades in a business or corporation. There's also so many cultural factors. There's so much information in the world. You know, they used to say 10 years ago, information is power. And I guess in some ways it still is, but the truth is there's so much information in the world that nobody can feel adequately educated on anything anymore. You can never know enough. And if you try to keep up with innovation and technology, then big chunks of your time are spent trying to learn how to use these new devices that you keep bringing into your life. And of course, there's social media where everybody's always smiling and making all their readers feel like maybe my life just isn't as good as theirs, feeling inadequate. And then there's so many environmental factors. People spend less and less time outdoors. They don't take time for self-care. They are trying to deal with impossible work demands. And there's all these environmental toxins, air pollution, electromagnetic fields, this new potential for the 5G internet, and all of the added electronic energy that will be putting in our atmosphere. Pesticides, pharmaceuticals, oh my goodness. These commercials with these pharmaceuticals, I just can't believe it. I can't believe that people buy those drugs after they see those commercials. The side effects are horrendous. And I just think to myself, how much suffering are they in to risk that kind of side effect, which ranges from nausea and loss of appetite all the way up to heart attack and stroke and cancer and death. And then there's the physical burnout factors, just the byproduct of us trying to cope with everything else. Excessive junk food consumption, empty calories causing inflammation and weight gain, using food and alcohol and other drugs and distractions to numb your feelings, starving your body of its needed nutrition, falling asleep in front of the television after stuffing yourself with high fat, high sugar, alcohol. And so many of us have just begun to live like couch potatoes. Out of 24 hours in the day, we may be sitting or lying down for a good 23 of those. There's no time to move more. We're so engrossed in what we are doing and what our obligations are. We're not even thinking about how our body is just desperate to move around. And even when we try to have recreation or enjoyment, we end up doing things like playing video games or watching movies and television shows so that we're still sitting. And many of us are unwilling to build a habit of moving our bodies into our daily round. And then there's the time management burnout factors, the distractions, the time we spend on social media, the time required to keep your email inbox checked on, all these notifications from your phone that just beeping every few seconds with some people, notifying them of something else that's coming in or needs their attention or needs to be done. And this is really a way of allowing other people to prioritize your time instead of meeting your own needs first. And then, of course, all of that adds up to having relationship problems, chronic conflicts because there's no time or attention to devote to important relationships, to just spending time doing nothing together. And those passionate feelings that you want to have for your loved ones are numbed out because of an inability to really connect with people. And you isolate yourself due to this over focus on your obligations. And if you do feel anything, it's likely to be sadness or disappointment because you can't do what your loved ones need or want you to do. And then the financial pressures are just unbelievable. Chronic conflicts due to lack of time and attention devoted to important relationships, numbed because of the inability to build these solid relationships, isolating yourself due to an over focus on your career or business, not making time for fun, not having the money to go and do the things that you would really enjoy doing, not making time to take a vacation, not having the money to take a vacation. And then there's the sea of debt that many people are drowning in. And then an astonishing number of people, mostly women, are not only needing to take care of themselves, but they're either devoting time and attention to children or their parents. And this is just a fact of the way of life for many Americans now. Millions, you can look at these statistics, millions of people are caring for somebody other than themselves. So that's why we're here today, because, like I said, it's just a wonder that, that more of us aren't completely burned out given all the pressure and stress that we're always under. But today we're here to talk about solutions much more than the problems. We're here to help you to reprioritize your physical well-being, to access your passion to guide your choices, to reclaim your power, and to align with your purpose. These are the pathways back to a life of fulfillment. At the end of the webinar, you'll be able to identify the small levers of change that can help you reduce the burnout. Learn 4 ways to de-stress in 20 minutes a day. Discover the secret to breaking through burnout instead of allowing it to manage you. And take your life back, even though sometimes it feels like it's totally out of control. And I'm really hoping that you'll stay till the end of the webinar. If you do, I will be giving you access to a free 5-minute energy boosting meditation. And the reason I want you to have that is because I think if you'll use it just 5 minutes, right when you feel your energy sagging, you'll find that just that little bit of added attention will begin to make a big difference for you in your life. And just to give you some encouragement, so today we're going to cut this topic into 2 parts. Part 1 is the anatomy of burnout, because I want you to know that burnout doesn't just come out of nowhere. There's a slow progression of 12 phases that lead to the deepest, darkest burnout. And no matter where you find yourself on that spectrum, it's never too late to turn around, to turn back, to begin to build fulfillment back into your life. And you can do that, and we're going to cover that with part 2, using the 4 pillars to break through burnout. So part 1, the 12-phase anatomy of burnout. Pay close attention and see if you can diagnose yourself and find yourself on that scale. Just a quick overview of the 12 phases. The first is just an ideal or standard of perfection, just wanting things to be perfect. And to achieve that, you begin to need to work more, and you begin to work like a maniac. And this working causes you to put your own needs last, trying to cover all the other bases. But as you do that, you begin to feel miserable and you're not understanding why. And as this gets deeper and more ingrained in your system, values that are important to you begin to be revised, and you begin to let other people's priorities become your values. And because of that, you begin to feel frustrated and aggressive and cynical. And when that happens, at the end of that process, you become more and more exhausted and you begin to disengage. Just the experience of negativity, it's unbearable. And then your friends begin to see you getting lost in this place of lack of life, and they want to sit you down for a talk. But this only serves to irritate you more because you're feeling lost and confused. And so that causes you to become more withdrawn and hiding out, empty inside. And when that emptiness gets so pervasive, then an apathy forms over you. And at the very bottom, physical and mental collapse as your body is simply unable to deal with the demands that you've placed on it. So now we're going to move through these phases and give them a little more attention. And this is where you can kind of diagnose yourself and find where you are on this burnout spectrum. So the first is this driven by an ideal or standard of perfection. And it's just a matter really of trying to make your mark in the world, trying to be somebody, trying to do the best that you can do and make your work as good as it can be. And I wanted to share with you a case study from Carol. She's a PhD psychologist. She's a graduate of a very prestigious Ivy League university. She's a researcher, she's a wife, and she's a mother of 2 young boys. But when her burnout began to get extreme, she was commuting 1 hour each way every day to work. There was never enough time. She'd taken on trying to get a further certification in her work that was causing her to need to study. Her children were demanding more. Her husband was demanding more. Work was demanding more. And she was giving, giving, giving. She started working harder and harder, trying to get all these bases covered, telling herself, if I just work a little harder, I'll get there. But then the quality began to suffer, and she began to forget things and miss meetings, and was becoming chronically late, always behind. This wasn't Carol. But she started telling herself that she didn't have these needs. She put her own needs really not only last, but just kind of out of mind. And every day was just on this hamster wheel of going and going and going and saying, I can't give up. I have to keep going. She tried sleeping less. And when she did sleep, she didn't sleep well. And as this progressed, she woke up tired. She wasn't eating well, and she was indulging in addictive behaviors that she knew was detrimental to her health, like using coffee for energy and cigarettes for energy boosts. She got more and more miserable, and just really she couldn't understand why, because she had a life that would look ideal to many people. She and her husband had a good relationship. She loved her children. She loved her work. She was well regarded by her peers. But she was everybody's go-to person. The buck stopped here, was on her desk. And as more and more demands were made on her, she became more irritable, defensive, resentful, bitter, blaming others. Not fun to be around. And she was experiencing this thing about her own values being rewritten by the needs of other people. And her life was ruled by this feeling of obligation. I really should do such and such. And the more that her life was ruled by these shoulds, there was this terrible loss of joy, this loss of perception of beauty. Her senses were shutting down. She walked around in sort of a fog, not noticing her surroundings. Food lost its taste. There was no recreation or playtime. There was just work, work, work. And of course, in that kind of environment, she was angry inside, frustrated, aggressive, cynical. This inner bitch was not containable anymore. And I'm sure men know that feeling just as well as women. I know it's sort of a term that gets labeled to women, but it's very much that feeling of angry, frustrated aggressiveness inside that is that label. Easily angered, impatient, judgmental, unforgiving. This inner hell that you're living in is contaminating all your relationships. It's really sad. And as that process goes to its extreme, it leaves you emotionally exhausted, and the only thing you can do is begin to disengage. And your constant thought is, I'm so tired all the time. Anybody here thinking that? Withdrawn, isolating yourself, taking mental health days that don't seem to do any good, actually getting sick, having your immune system compromised. And then you start to notice your friends are wanting to have a talk with you, and they're saying, what's going on with you? And you're denying and denying and denying. But you don't know who you are anymore either. Your friends, bosses, colleagues, they're very concerned at what they see happening with you. But your inability to really admit it to yourself makes interpersonal conflicts escalate. Does that sound like you? So in response to all of that concern, you begin to withdraw and hide out more. And there's this inner voice that's just saying, screw you, to everybody. And you don't recognize that. That's not how you see yourself. And yet that's how you hear yourself talking now inside, hating the very things you used to love, blaming other people, perceiving them to be the problem, thinking to yourself, if only people would leave me alone, I would be all right. And you find yourself speaking carelessly and saying things that you can't take back, hurting other people needlessly. And then the inner emptiness begins to just get bigger and bigger, and you're asking yourself, what's happening to me? I don't feel anything. I'm dead inside. The addictive behaviors are sustaining you more and more. There's no pleasure or enjoyment in your life. Could that be you? And at the bottom of that phase, the apathy just grows and grows. The thought is, I have nothing to look forward to. Carol was numb, indifferent, indecisive, listless. And she knew, finally, that she had to have help. Luckily, she did, because she was so close to the end. Physical and mental collapse, totally giving up, becoming ill, becoming hopeless. At the very worst, some people get suicidal. They just don't see a future of a life that's worth living. Professional help is pretty much a necessity if you've let it go this far. It's very interesting that research is showing us more and more that the type of people that get burned out are people that have had very traumatic things happen to them in their childhood. Now, this case study is Samantha, and Samantha was raised in a loving home with caring parents. But Samantha had an experience of being bullied at a summer camp with an unbelievably cruel camp director who would not allow her to communicate with her parents and would not support her in getting any relief. So she spent 6 weeks at a summer camp in absolute misery. And these feelings of helplessness, powerlessness, and hopelessness became pervasive parts of her during that time. So for most people, burnout is a collection of beliefs about yourself, life, and other people that are the source of physical breakdown, emotional bankruptcy, mental anguish, and spiritual disconnection. And hopefully it's clear by now that there's only one way out of burnout, and that's to make some changes in the way that you are living your life, perceiving yourself, perceiving life, and perceiving other people. So I hope we're agreed, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. It just isn't going to happen. Nothing will change until you do. But what kind of change are we talking about? Something sweeping and overwhelming? Something that just adds more pressure? No. I mean, if it is possible for you to just take a sabbatical and go someplace and rest for 6 months, that's great. Please do. But for most people, they have to make incremental changes, little small step-by-step changes. But even so, even making small incremental step-by-step changes, you still have two options. You can take the stairs or you can take the escalator. And the 4-pillar breakthrough burnout process is definitely an escalator. So that's what we're going to be talking about now. I just wanted to take a minute to point out why we need the 4 pillars. Why not just one pillar? Why not just focus on one of those? And that's okay to do for a short term. But ultimately, one pillar is just not stable. I've eaten lunch at tables like that many times, and it's very common to lean over and have the table tip. So one central support, one pillar is not enough. And 2 pillars obviously doesn't work. 3 pillars, well, it's more stable than 1 or 2, but you can still easily tip over a 3-legged table. But look at this. Now, does that look steady? It's reliable. You can lean on it all you want. It's steady. It's a great foundation. You can sit on it. You can dance on it. You can jump over it. A 4-pillar table is a very steady support system, and that's what we're going to create for you today. So the 4 pillars again are purpose, power, passion, and play, and they are related to the 4 aspects of our being. The physical relates to play, the emotional relates to passion, the mental relates to power, and the spiritual relates to purpose. So I tried to create a little graphic here that would look kind of like a tabletop, and as you can see, I failed miserably, but that was my that was my best attempt to demonstrate that you could lay a board on top of that and it would be flat. So our first pillar is the physical one. We're starting at the bottom instead of at the top, even though in our table example, all these pillars are equal, and I do mean that. But in terms of our energy self, the physical is the bottom layer of our energy self. And the very bottom of the bottom is that you must build rest into your life, sufficient rest. Sleep is much more important than we ever knew before. All the body's healing work is done during sleep. Constantly running on not enough sleep is a recipe, a guarantee that you will burn out your physical body. The second part of the physical pillar is nourishment. So many of us are living on fast food these days, and it's like pouring water into your gas tank and expecting your car to run. Ain't gonna happen. It not only won't run, to get it going again, if you pour water in your gas tank, it will require major repairs. And if you try to live a life based on junk food, the same is going to happen to you. But it's not only what you eat, it's how you eat it that's very important.
It's 6 o'clock.
For good digestion. Digestion is a mechanism for your body to be nourished by the food that you eat. So you need to eat slowly and chew your food thoroughly. Then the third piece of the physical pillar is movement. Our bodies are designed to move, but Americans are sitting, many of us, 23 out of 24 hours a day. We sit when we work, we sit when we commute, we sit when we get home, and then we lay down to go to sleep. There's no moving. You've heard the old adage, use it or lose it, and that is something that you have got to get into your head. If you need a good example, go to a nursing home and look at the consequence of being a person who doesn't keep up your body's ability to move. But don't do it in misery. Do it doing things that you enjoy. Pleasure is a really important part of being healthy. So those three pieces constitute play. Now I know that might be a little bit of a stretch, but without enough sleep, without enough nourishment, without enough movement, playing is not an attractive option. You have to build fun into your life. And if you really need help with playing, go to a playground and watch children. Play with them. Don't just sit on a bench and watch them. Get up and play with them. And see if they can inspire you to get back in touch with that part of yourself again. Our second pillar has to do with the emotional aspect of our body, and it's called authenticity, being authentic with your emotions. It's very important, critically important, that you tell yourself the truth about how you feel. Most people don't know. Feelings are a barometer of your health and well-being. If you don't know what your true feelings are, it's not possible for you to make good choices. So to know what you need, you have to know how you feel. And if you're feeling negative emotions, yeah, I know we do. We try to avoid this. But we're not doing ourselves any favor with this avoidance. In order to have a healthy life, you need to be able to tolerate negative feelings. And you need to use those negative feelings to help you create a life that's worth living. Negative emotions can be transformed into positive emotions, but you need to learn how. So when that emotional authenticity is there, you become and feel and experience yourself to be fueling your life on your passions. It's not that you never do something you don't like to do. Of course, that's part of everyone's life experience. But the foundation of your life is this passionate engagement with your own life. The deepest desires of your heart are placed there by God to guide your steps. So it's really important that you be able to feel your passions and your deep desires. Now, the third pillar is the mental pillar, and this is where our power is, our consciousness. It's about your thoughts. And this is really the key. When we can learn how to be constructive in our thoughts, with our thoughts, the field of possibilities expands, and we are prepared and expecting the best out of life. This is when life begins to be really fun. So our thought life is really where our power is, because what we think determines the options that we see. If you're not living the life that you want to live, and if you're burned out, you're clearly not, then you must work on the power to change what you're thinking. But here's the good news. This is not really something that I have to teach you, because you change your mind all the time. You just have to find the motivation to change your mind more and more often so that your thought life supports your choices and the opportunities that you see in front of you. Now, the fourth pillar is the spiritual pillar. This is the pillar of purpose. And to be really connected with your purpose, you have to cultivate the qualities of listening and receiving and being connected to your creator, to your source, to God, however you perceive that energy to be. because you are unique. You were designed by your Creator with an intention for your life, maybe a host of intentions. I'm not saying that there's only one purpose, but the gifts and the talents and the wisdom that you have and your unique put together is like no one else. So there are things that you can do, gifts that you can give, things that you can contribute to the world that no one else can. But you have to live in such a way that you perceive that. So when you are in touch with your purpose, you walk your destiny path. And burnout is a clear indication that you have lost your way. But it's not irretrievable. You're just ignoring the information that the four aspects, the four pillars are providing to you. So to make some changes, you have to recommit to deepening your connection to your Creator in whatever way you perceive it. It's never too late. You can begin again today. You are already all forgiven, already. Just receive that forgiveness. Be humble enough to ask for it and let it in. And then allow yourself to listen. So now we're going to go back through the stages of burnout and look and see how the four pillars can support you. So when you're just at the very edge of this burnout process, you're still playing, but just notice where these standards of perfection are beginning to kill your joy. Look for choices that are juicy and alive for you and don't put quite so much weight on obligation or shoulds. Notice how you're giving your power away with your thoughts when you're thinking, I need them to like me. I need them to approve of my work. I need to go ask somebody for permission for me to be or do or have a certain thing. And in your purpose, stay connected to your vision. Don't let these ideals and these thoughts about perfection cause you to think, I can't be who I want to be. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Those are the kind of thoughts that you need to pay attention to. Those are the kind of thoughts that you need to let go of and embrace more empowering thoughts. If you're already working like a maniac, ask yourself in the area of play, how can I make this balance better? How can I make play more of a priority? Find out where you're pushing yourself beyond the energies of your passions with these shoulds and oughts. Ask yourself what thoughts you're thinking that are allowing you to ignore your feelings and your physical needs. Oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, I can catch up on my sleep tomorrow. Those are the kind of thoughts that are accelerating your path to burnout. And in the area of purpose, or the pillar of purpose, how are you selling out your purpose so that you can accomplish goals and objectives that maybe are imposed on you by the outside but don't really reflect what's important to you? If you're in the phase of putting your own needs last, what physical needs are reflected in your body that you're ignoring? It's time to tune in. Look for those areas that are tight. Look for pain. Are you having headaches, frequent headaches? Are you having muscle aches? Are you having lower back problems? Are your legs stiff? Are your joints stiff? And then connect that in with your passion. What actions are you forcing yourself to take that are not connected to passion? How much and how often are you doing what you should do and ought to do, but not what you love to do? What thoughts are causing you to ignore the messages that your body is sending? Like, oh, I'll just take some aspirin for that headache. I'm not going to slow down. Oh, I'll just get a cane to walk and forget about the pain in my hip. No, you've got to stop and see what's going on. How are your needs what you're needing in alignment with your purpose. See, that's the interesting thing. Your purpose is not meant to separate you from your needs. Your needs are a way to align with your purpose. And if you can't see how, you need to spend some time reflecting on that and just asking that question. If you've fallen into the category of miserable and clueless, you need to ask yourself, what is making me so miserable? Retrace your choices and see where you've started to deviate from your passion. Notice again what thoughts. Our power is always about what we're thinking. What are the thoughts that are causing you so much misery? This is hopeless. I can't go on this way. I hate my job. I hate my husband. I hate my life. I hate this commute. These thoughts are so disempowering. If you're feeling anger and frustration, great, acknowledge that, but then begin to look deeper. What is the great divide between what you're feeling called to do and how you're spending your time? If that's gone on a long time, your values are being rewritten. You may even feel like, I'm not sure what is valuable to me anymore. You can remember maybe back to when you were a child. And as you became a young adult, you did have values. There were things that you cared about. There were things that were important to you. But re-examine those, make a list and see what's been abandoned that really does need to be reconstituted in your life. What values have replaced living a carefree and joyful life, which hopefully you were able to do as a child? When did you begin to devalue the experience of passion? When did you begin to tell yourself, oh, I love baking cookies, but there's just no time. I love painting pictures, but there's just no time. I love making music, but I don't have time for that. What are the thoughts that are causing you to abandon what's truly important? A thought I just shared. I don't have time for that. We all have 24 hours in a day. It's up to you to use those hours to make your own life an enriching experience. What is the great divide between what you say you value in life and how you're actually spending your time? That's a tough question. But if your values are being rewritten, you really do need to spend some time there and answer that. If you've become frustrated, aggressive, and cynical, if you've gone past that and you've begun to be emotionally exhausted and you're disengaging, can you just stop and notice that there's no play and very little enjoyment in your life? And ask yourself, is this how I want to live? Passion. Notice that you've forgotten and can't access any feelings of passion. Notice how numb you're becoming. Is this really okay with you? Are you going to let this cycle move on down toward that bottom, ugly, dark place? What thoughts are causing you to push yourself into this depleted state? How long can you continue this way? And if your friends are sitting you down for a talk, it's time to reflect. Those are the people that really care about you. You might notice that other people tend to try to go the other way when they see you coming. Notice how angry you feel when friends try to talk to you about this situation and what's happening to you. Notice those thoughts that cause you to push people away. Leave me alone. If you're thinking that, it's time to notice. Are you losing the support of friends and colleagues? Why? Why are you telling yourself you don't care? And if you're really getting down there and withdrawn and hiding out, just notice that there's no play in your life. that you've become numb. And it's really important to listen now for those thoughts that you're thinking. I hate my life. This is hopeless. It's never going to change. Why are you telling yourself that you want to be alone all the time? If you've reached the inner emptiness, look in the mirror. Look into your own eyes. Just stand in front of the mirror for 5 minutes, looking into your own eyes and breathing. Get in touch with yourself. Notice how empty it is inside. Can you feel anything? What are the thoughts? Hopeless, helpless, powerless, defenseless, useless. All less words. Can you embrace this emptiness and ask what it's trying to tell you? Have you moved into apathy? I hope not. But if so, I'm asking you today, choose to do something nice for yourself. This is important. Do it even though you don't feel like it. Notice how apathetic you are. Notice what you are feeling. Feel the numbness if that's all that's there. Listen deeply to your thoughts. Write down what you're thinking. And it's really getting time to get some professional help. It's hard to climb out of a hole that's this deep. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. We're at the bottom now, mental and physical collapse. If this is happening to you, get professional help. Talk to somebody about emotional healing. Get some help opening up this numbness and excavating all that's boiling underneath the surface. Again, what thoughts are there? Listen deeply. Write down what you hear yourself thinking. Consider making some radical changes. If you're at the very bottom of this hole, it's absolutely possible to do it step by step, but you do need to have a plan, and you do need to be going back the other way, because you cannot allow yourself to just settle at the bottom of this pit. So how can you use the 4-pillar approach to burnout breakthrough? Find yourself on that scale. Tell yourself the truth. If you're having any trouble diagnosing your burnout, I do have a diagnosis checklist on burnoutfix.com, absolutely free, and you can download it and fill it out at your leisure, and it will help you to objectify how bad the situation really is. Review the suggestions for the place you are on the range, the ones we just went over. Ask yourself what action or step you can commit to take in the next 24 hours to begin to create new habits for your life. Don't walk away from here and just go back into the process as though nothing's changed. Leave here committed to doing something today to nurture yourself. Be willing to take small steps and not overwhelm yourself with new standards of perfection or idealism about your burnout recovery. Okay? Don't let that happen. But use the steps and follow them backwards to move into greater levels of self-care. Creating a fulfilling life is a marathon. It's a lifelong process. It's not a sprint. But create a time every week to check in with yourself. You can use the assessment over and over if it's helpful to you, and it will help you to see where you're making some inroads on this situation. On my website, I will be building some free resources for you. Being present with yourself meditation, short 5-minute meditation, gratitude and or appreciation journaling. I'll be creating a little journal that you can use to keep yourself focused on what you have to be grateful for. And a thought download journal so that you can get used to listening to yourself think. That is one of the most powerful things you can do to understand why you're living in the situation that you're in. Is listen to what you're talking to yourself about regarding your circumstances. And then I will be putting a little booklet on vibrational restructuring, which is an energy technique that can take you from a low energy feeling to a high energy feeling. So these are some things that I just want to offer you, give you to help you on your healing path. But the question remains, where do you go from here? Don't let this new awareness die at the end of this webinar. How can you move yourself from burnout to breakthrough? Can you trust yourself to do this alone? Isn't that part of how you got to where you are today, is that you've isolated yourself too much? Would you be willing to receive some support or guidance to accelerate your journey back into the land of fulfillment and joy? You don't have to do this alone. I have created just for you people just like you, people that will understand you, people that know exactly how you're feeling. A 12-week group coaching program to help you access purpose, power, passion, and play in your life. There are 12 modules, one per week, no contracts, you can cancel anytime. But every week there's a new weekly training, weekly group coaching, live. You can download a weekly workbook to help you stay focused on what we're working on, and there'll be a new 5-minute meditation every week to help you put yourself first. So week 1, we talk about the pillars of fulfillment in more detail, and especially we work on how to identify the thoughts and feelings that are burning you out. In week 2, we're going to focus on judgments and the high price that you're paying for maintaining those. We all have them, but if you're unconscious about it, it's really doing a detriment to the quality of your life. So week 2, we work on judgments. Week 3, we explore doubts about God's trustworthiness and goodness, or source, or life, or however you conceive the Creator. Because there's been a disconnect there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in. So week 3, we look at the feelings about the doubts about trustworthiness and the goodness of God. In week 4, we're talking about how we are all trying to control ourselves, life, and other people, and circumstances. And this is a major cause of burnout. It is actually possible for life to be exactly the way it is, and you develop a mindset of unconditional love that allows you to accept the circumstances, but find your joy within through your connection with Source. So that's what we work on in week 4. In week 5, we take on the habit of worrying. This is a really interesting week because I think you will discover, if you join the program with me, that most of us think that worrying is something that responsible people do. That if you were to let go of worrying, that it would make you bad or irresponsible. So there's a lot of payoff to worrying, but it is a major source of stress and burnout. And there is a way to live that doesn't include worry. And certainly you can teach yourself, when you notice those worry thoughts beginning to creep in, to respond in a very effective way. In week 6, we talk about how to align yourself to God's will and surrender to it. And this is more about trusting God's goodness and living in faith. Very important, very empowering week. Really changes your focus of attention from the external world to the inner relationship that you have with your Creator. In week 7, we work on opening your heart to receive the experience of unconditional love. And the experience of unconditional love opens the doors to peace and calm. When you feel deeply connected and loved by God, it's not hard to allow His peace that passes all understanding to move into your heart. In week 8, we're going to talk about using your imagination to experience the faith that your desired experiences are coming into your life. Week 9, we talk about how to create fulfillment and satisfaction no matter your circumstances. Week 10, we take on the topic of fear and how to transform fear thoughts into love thoughts. In week 11, we work on transforming doubt into confidence. Having confidence is a major game changer in terms of having a fulfilling life. In our last week together, we talk about designing a fulfilling life using your thoughts and your imagination. So I'm hoping that you're very interested now in working with me, because I am very interested in working with you. Burnout is a mindset problem. I hope you can see by the way that we've approached this burnout conversation and this breakthrough conversation that we're talking about the ways that you think impacting the ways that you feel, which impacts the choices that you see in front of you, which impacts the results that you have in your life. So you know, if you have the result of being burned out, that you have thoughts that are disempowering. If you work with me, you'll be freed from the belief that your circumstances have to dictate how you're going to think and feel. This is not true. Yes, it's common. Yes, it's the way that normal people do it. But most normal people are stressed out and burned out. So in order to break through, you have to kind of give up desiring to be so normal and begin to experience yourself as extraordinary. Then you will understand the importance of choosing your thoughts consciously and see why what you keep your focus on minute to minute determines what you experience in your life. You'll learn to notice when you're feeling something you don't want to feel, and you'll know exactly how to change those feelings. Can you imagine living a life of fulfillment and joy? I can imagine that. I can hold that space for you. How would it feel to be able to say that aloud? I'm living a life of fulfillment and joy 12 short weeks from now. Imagine saying, I feel joyful instead of frustrated and sad. Imagine saying, I'm taking good care of my body. I'm giving it rest. I'm nourishing it. I'm moving it every day, and it's feeling better than it has in a long, long time. I want that for you. I live much more consciously, enjoying the simple pleasures of the human sensory experience. So when snowflakes fall on your face, you stop and you feel that exquisite tingle. And you look at these snowflakes on your dark clothing, and you see how perfect and unique and special each one is. And you smell the coffee and you taste your food. Life can become rich without you getting any more money in the bank. And the best part, feeling God's presence easily and finding that His answers will guide your steps if you allow it. You'll also learn how to be conscious of your thoughts, use the thought model to think thoughts that lead you to your desired experiences. That is when you feel powerful. No, you can't eliminate every unwanted circumstance from your life, But yes, you can begin to think about your life in a way that allows you to have experiences that you want to have. You'll get very good at noticing when stress is creeping up on you, when your shoulders are hunching or your back is aching or your head is hurting. And you can do a 5-minute meditation. And when you practice, you will get good at releasing that in 5 minutes and feeling that deep connection with your Creator so that you can feel peace instead. And then you'll know how to work backwards from wherever you are on that spectrum. Please don't think, no matter even if you're down in level 12, that this situation can't be reversed. It absolutely can. You just have to do your part. And you're going to have to make some changes. I want that to be so clear. If you are not willing to change, please don't join this program. It will not work for you to listen and even do the program if you're not going to make changes in the way that you live your life. But for the next 12 weeks from our start date, I will guide you step by step through each of these components and help you get to the other side. So there are 4 main teaching components. The video teaching for the weekly lesson, that will be available in your membership 24/7. The group coaching will be live once a week, and I will move it at various times over the 12-week period so that no matter what your schedule, you will be able to attend live and get live coaching. There will be audio meditations that are downloadable for you to carry on your phone or other device. And there will be a workbook for each week to keep you on track, to keep you focused. It won't be tons of work. It's not going to be time consuming, but will help you keep your focus on you, which is where it needs to be in order to correct this situation. And maybe the best part is just to be in a small group with people who feel the same way that you do, who are supporting you, who are rooting for you, and doing the same work that you're doing. When you listen to other people, when you listen to group coaching and hear me coach other people, sometimes it's actually more effective for you to hear me interact with someone else than for you to interact with me. Because it's just so hard to see these things when it's your life. It's like asking a fish to understand water. Fish don't understand water, they just live in it. And you are living in your burnout now. So it's much easier to see me interact with someone else. And then you can apply the wisdom that you've gained from that work into your own heart and into your own life. And maybe the worst part is how isolating this whole process is. And so joining a group of people that are healing burnout together will deal a death blow to that feeling that I'm the only one that's going through something like this. Millions of people are suffering just like you are. So I really want to invite you to consider joining the Burnout to Breakthrough program. I want to work with you personally in a small group setting. I want you to imagine how much better you'll feel when you're no longer struggling with burnout. Imagine this deep sense of inner peace, inner joy, and having energy and vitality again. Imagine how life-changing it will be to give up these burdens, to give up this sense of powerlessness, and to feel your power, to co-create with the power of your thoughts the kind of life experience that you really want to have, to be vital and alive and excited to be living your life to the fullest. So what's the investment? Here's the thing. To work with me one-on-one, I charge $300 an hour for my coaching. And there's over 20 hours of work in this program. So if we were to do this program together one-on-one, the fee would be $6,000. But I know that most people aren't able to make that kind of investment. And I wanted to make it a no-brainer, to make it easy for you to get started working with me personally and in a small group. So instead of $6,000 or even half of that, I've made this program $297 for a full 12 weeks of intense burnout breakthrough and empowerment work. Or if you prefer, if your finances are such that it would be easier to have a payment plan, then you can make 3 easy payments of $109 each. And I wanted to sweeten the pot and give you some bonuses. So I've included my money blocker release program. That's a program that I've done for people who have financial trauma in their life. That includes low income, no savings, mountains of debt, or financial trauma like being robbed, being swindled, or bankruptcy. All of those experiences leave tracks, emotional tracks in your body. And the Money Blockers Release Program is designed to help you let all that go. It's on sale on my website for $197. And bonus number 2 is the Impossible Goal Adventure. Now I realize that may not sound very good right now. Your life may seem impossible enough, but I want to tell you that when you let go of burnout, when you break through burnout, when you begin to reconnect with your purpose, your passion, your power, and your play, impossible goals are a form of play that can take you places that you thought you would never be able to go. So it's about accessing your relationship with God to allow God's love to do the impossible through you. The impossible goal supercharges your psyche and it pushes you toward your potential. It helps you to use your imagination to fire up these places in your brain that let you access opportunities that are already there, but you can't see them because you're living in a condition of, it's not possible for me. I can't. I never will be able to. And part of impossible goal is getting really comfortable with trying things and failing. And believe me, when you can do that, you become unstoppable. You leap forward fast because there's nothing that you're not willing to experience. That means you try things that you wouldn't ordinarily not be willing to try. And then you confront the barriers that make the goal impossible so that what seemed impossible can become possible. It's a very exciting program. And it sells on my website for $197. And then for the first 8 people that join the coaching program, I am offering a one-on-one consultation with me so that we can talk about your false beliefs, your limiting habits that are keeping you burned out and stuck. And as I said before, I charge $3. I don't actually do one-on-one hour programs anymore. I don't just see people once. But for this, to launch this coaching program, I decided that I would do that for the first 8 people who enroll. You get a $300 consultation with me for free. So the total offer is the Burnout to Breakthrough 12-week coaching program for $297, the Money Blocker Release program for $197, the Impossible Goal Adventure program for $197, a $300 consultation with me, and the total value of that is just under $1,000. But the cost today would only be $297 or 3 payments of $109. And definitely, I want you to be happy. And if you are somebody that simply can't pull out of this can't break through this burnout, I will be happy to refund your money at the end of the 3-month period. I won't be asking you any questions. If you ask me for a refund, you'll just see it show right back up. It will come back to you the way that it came to me. And I will do that cheerfully because I want you to be happy and I want you to know that there's no risk to you in participating in this program with me. So if you're ready, enroll now. Go to mindsetmastery.kartra.com/page/BOE and go to my website for your free 5-minute meditation and the other resources that I mentioned during the seminar. It's been my pleasure and my privilege to be with you today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.